Hello everyone, my name is Diya Sudarshanan. I am a watercolor artist and mentor. Today I want to introduce you to a tool which can be really helpful for you in getting highlights in your watercolor painting. You know that in watercolors we don't paint with white paint to get the highlights. Most of the time we preserve the whiteness of the paper to get the white highlights that you need in your painting. But there can be scenarios where you accidentally paint an area which you intended to keep white. How do you retain or how do you get back the highlight in that such a case? There are different methods in getting back that particular white highlight in your painting, like using lifting technique with your brush. You can lift off some paint and get back the white area. Sometimes people use other mediums like gouache, white gouache paint or white gel pen to get highlights in your painting. So today I am introducing to you a tool called Mr. Clean Magic Eraser. That's a very common cleaning tool which is very helpful in lifting off watercolor paint and getting highlights in your painting. It is much easier than using your brush to do this technique, and let's see how this is done. So let me show you how to get the highlights. So here, this is a painting which I have done recently. So you can see that there are highlights in many areas. So what does it mean by highlights? It is those white areas which you have in between dark areas. So those are the highlights in your painting. And in watercolor, we usually don't paint with white. We get this kind of white color by preserving the white of the paper. So here, if you see these areas, so these white areas that you see here are not paints. These are all white of the paper. Okay. So how do we get this white of the paper? So there are different techniques we can use in getting the white of the paper. One is by using masking fluid. So some of you may be aware of what is masking fluid. Masking fluid is something which we use to mask a particular area. So this is called, this is masking fluid. This is liquid when it is in the bottle, but when you apply it on the paper, it will become rubbery and stick to the paper and it will mask that area. So you can paint over other areas. It will mask the area where the masking fluid is applied, so paint doesn't flow into that area. In that manner, you can mask, preserve the white of the paper. For example, if you see this one which I was showing, this is something which was achieved through masking. So you can see in detail that this area is masked, okay, using the masking fluid. So that is one way of getting highlights or preserving the white in your paper. Another way is that you don't paint the area which you want to retain as white, you paint the area around it. That is called negative painting. So this stone has been painted using a combination of masking fluid as well as negative painting. Okay, so here some of the areas are painted dark, which is called negative painting. You paint the area around it and preserving the white in this area. Okay, so that is negative painting technique. But even if we use these techniques to preserve the white in the paper, sometimes when we paint, especially when you are doing wet on wet kind of painting, the paint can spread into the area which you wanted to keep white. Okay, say for example, I have this area. Okay, so this is not pure white, but I wanted to get some highlight in this area. And if I paint the entire area with wet on wet technique to get this blended kind of an effect, the paint can flow into the highlight area also. Okay, so I will lose this white area or like lighter area. So how do I bring back this highlight? Okay, so this, once you paint, accidentally paint over an area which you wanted to keep as white, the way to get back that white area is to lift off the colors, which means you take off the color that has gone into that area. Okay, so here one thing that you have to be careful about is it is very difficult to lift off colors which are staining colors. Some of the watercolor paints are called staining paints, which is like it will stain the paper and it will be very difficult to lift off that color. Okay, and we can lift off this color using a brush. It's simply like you use a damp brush. So how do you make a brush damp? Is like you dip the brush in water, simply any water that you have, and then you will take off the extra water by using a tissue paper. So you have a tissue paper and you take off the extra water in the tissue paper. Now the brush is damp, it doesn't have any extra water. Using this damp brush, you can lift off the watercolor paint. You can press hard here. I'm not doing it because this is a finished area. You can lift off by pressing it hard and then using a tissue paper. Okay, that is another way. Now in this video, we are focusing on how to use the lifting technique but with a different tool, not using your brush. So that is the tool that I'm going to introduce to you. It is called Mr. Clean Magic Eraser. Okay, so this is Mr. Clean Magic Eraser. This is a very common cleaning tool, okay, like home cleaning tool, but this is very helpful for watercolors also. So it looks like a sponge. So this is how it looks like, and actually you can use see, I have taken smaller portions, parts of it, to do the lifting. Okay, so this is a tool and I'll show you how to do the lifting. So this is a very small part of it that I have broken and taken off. So you just need a very small part of it. Let's see how we can give some highlights in some of this area. Okay, let's take this example, this one. Okay, so I'm going to get some highlight for this stone. I don't want so much of color there. So what do? I dip my this sponge, Mr. Clean Magic Eraser, in water and take off all the extra water by pressing it. It's like just like a sponge, and then you take it back and slightly, lightly scrub the area where you want to get the highlight. So I am scrubbing this area now. Here you can see that in close up. Okay, so let me scrub the area, here. You see that the color is lifting and getting a highlight there. Okay, so this is how you get remove extra paint or anything from a particular area. Okay, so let me show you in another paper, an easy way. So this is my almost completed painting, so I don't have much highlights to be lifted off here. So I'll show you in another paper how do we do this. Okay, so here in this one I have some painted area. So suppose I want a very small area here to be lifted off, so I can use a masking tape to get that area. For example, I'm using it here. Okay, then okay. Just a small portion if I have to do it. Let's see how we do it. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is I want to lift off the color here. I want to get a square white patch here. How do I lift off using this Mr. Clean Magic Eraser? Okay, so I am again dipping it and making it wet and bringing it here, and then slowly scrub off this area. Okay, it will scrub, it will lift off much more than the way you use brushes. Okay, it's more powerful, but be very careful not to overdo it. If you overdo it, it can damage the paper, um, because it has a rough surface. Even though it is spongy, the surface has got some grip, like a rough or sandy surface, which can actually damage your paper if you are using it too much. So see, I have lifted off those color there very much. Okay, it's almost looking like white here. And see, let's see how it looks like. You take off all the paper. See, you have got a perfect white highlight here. Okay, so this is how you can use the Mr. Clean Magic Eraser to get highlights in your painting. Okay, otherwise another option is to have these kind of gouache paint, gouache color. So let's see the difference of using gouache paint with the white highlight. Okay, so I've not been using this for some time. I usually don't use white paint in my paintings. I go for only masking fluid, like I retain the white of my paper. Okay, so I've taken some paint, gouache paint, and I'm using a brush, a normal brush, to add a little bit of water to the gouache paint, little bit. Okay, and let's see, it's quite thick because I want it to be very opaque. So this is how it looks like. You see, you're getting highlights using gouache. Okay, let me show a little bit more thicker application here. Okay, so this is how you can get some highlight using gouache paint. Okay. Then another option is use white gel pen. So if it is a very thin area, you don't have a large area to cover, you can use gel pen. You get white gel pens or white ink also. So here, see, I'm using a white gel pen to cover an area. But you know that it's not very effective. Okay, when once it is dry, it will look much more um, white. Okay, you see that's not very effective. But if you just want to draw lines or just a dot somewhere, right, this gel pen is really good. But to cover a larger area, you see the results. You see that this one, right, this one is much better compared to even gouache and gel pen. Okay, so lifting off is really good when you want to get strong highlights in your watercolor painting. Okay, but for single lines, small lines and all, you can actually use your gel pen. Okay, I hope this video was helpful for you. Now you know how to get highlights in your painting if you accidentally painted over an area which was supposed to be a white highlight. That's all. Thank you so much.